Vikings Valhalla has got to be one of the most surprisingly great seasons of TV that I've binged in a long time. The first episode I did a review on, I was kind of like, it's okay, it's fine. It feels like there's too many characters. I don't really, latch on to any of them. The action's not great. The storyline's like, it's okay. It feels like it could be better. But no. I'm so happy to be so wrong. This season was spectacular. It was so action-packed. It was so crazy. The plot was really fun, and there were just so many twists and turns. I don't think I've ever seen so many betrayals in 8 episodes of TV in my life. It was so much fun. It was so crazy how much action they could pack in without it feeling like there was just action, like there was no talking. There definitely isn't as many kind of sit-down long monologues as I remember Vikings kind of having, or like a Thrones would have, where there's like a 5-10 minute scene of just 2 characters chatting. Often those scenes would kind of only be a minute or 2 minutes long, but the pace this season has is so like go. It is just like relentless in a really great way. In a lot of ways, it kind of feels like it's 2 seasons in one. The first 4 kind of 5 episodes are kind of the siege of London and taking down the bridge and all of that, and then we start to kind of come back, and then it ends up in Kattegat with another big final action piece. I would never have kind of suspected that this show could have 2 giant action set pieces, something that Vikings and Thrones and all those shows never really got to until like later seasons. So to have the first season 2 huge, really entertaining, really fun battles, and not just fun because swords and shields and action because action's fun and gory and crazy, but what really kind of stood out in this season is the strategy. There's so many really fun little twists and turns with all the strategy in the battles. There's so many one force is here and they're coming up to the battle, and they're like, actually, the tide of the battle has turned. Let us not fight. And then next episode, he's killed for his treachery, and it's just crazy. Like, there's so many moments where I'm like, oh my god, our Joffrey substitute, who I loved this season, it was so good. Joffrey, but if he had the balls to get in a fight, and he's like swinging his sword around me, like, I'm Budget Joffrey, and I'm coming for you. He was amazing, and there was so many times where I'm like, oh my god. Okay, so he's going to be the main character. Oh no, he's dead. Oh no, he didn't die. Oh, they're going to team up and be friends. Oh no, his bloody Littlefinger substitute, Budget Littlefinger, turned on him and killed him while they're out riding horses. Oh, there was just so many moments like that that were so fun, kind of surprising. That's kind of the thing. There weren't just twists and turns for the sake of it. There were so many times where I'm like, wait, what? Harold's going to actually team up with his brother? And then later he's like, actually, they're going to be doing something from the sea. And it's like, no, he's actually still helping them. But then the brother's like, I knew you wouldn't help me. I knew you'd be backstabbing me. So I'm backstabbing you. So many backstabbings, so many betrayals. It was so much fun. So the betrayals and treachery and backstabbing, they're coming thick and fast. But what I found really kind of surprising when I kind of sat there finishing that last episode was just that kind of realization how much I cared about all these characters. Like in the final battle, someone gets like Harold gets hit by an axe in the chest, and I'm like, actually like, oh no! I hope he doesn't die. And I'm suddenly like, this is the guy in the first episode of my first episode review. I was just like, I guess he's sexy and charming and the best of the best of this group. But is that even saying that he's good? Now, no, I love him. I don't want him to die. There's so many characters, like Leif, the main character-ish, kind of Mr. Greenland himself. Amazing. I said he was Budget Long John Silver from Black Sails, but maybe that guy is Budget this guy now. Who knows? I guess that's really depending if you like pirates or Vikings. Pretty similar, but kind of different, I guess. But yeah, Leif, really fun. Loved seeing him get up and do kind of Ragnar Lothbrok-esque kind of stuff. The first episode really felt like it was bogged down in the remember Ragnar Lothbrok, and I'm like, yeah, I could probably just go and turn on Vikings. I haven't seen that in a long time. I would really like to see those early seasons again. But then after that, the season kind of embraced its own identity, and there was only 1 or 2 times after that where they actually mentioned Ragnar again, and it kind of, I don't know, they worked at those moments. So yeah, all the characters really surprised how much I loved pretty much all of them. I think there were a few weak ones here and there, but they were only kind of weak for like areas, like I felt like the female lady, I forgot her name, but she's one of the Greenlanders, and her kind of subplot at first feels a bit like, okay, I don't know, it's kind of like dragging. It was like, we just had the big London siege, we cut to her for almost a full episode, it was kind of like, okay. But then by the end, spectacular. Had some really fun training montages. She looked like she was always wielding the sword, and I always love when I feel like the actual actor is playing, is actually fighting with the sword. And then she gets really mixed up in the whole Christian pagan kind of verses, which is kind of the crux of this season. And then we have big, long, berserker psycho man who's talking to the seer in a cage, but he's not in the cage, which is a lot of fun. Amazing villain. And they had a spectacular sword fight at the end. So by the end of the season, kind of the weak link for me kind of turned around, and I found her really, really great by the end. She kind of, did the hard yards to kind of get there. I really, really liked that. There's some really interesting stuff that they kind of teased in the first episode that I wasn't super keen. But then when I kind of binged all of it, I really appreciated the whole Christian, pagan kind of civil war that's going on in the Vikings. Pretty much the whole season kind of, utilizes this as a theme. And like on the boat, people are arguing and stabbing and killing each other. And then it starts getting bigger and bigger until there's full-on wars going on in Kattegat. And I just love how, I don't know, it sounds such an interesting kind of way to kind of look into this lens of like, it's not just power and money, it's ideologies and how they're really kind of opposed to each other in different ways. And then some people, like say Leaf, has the cross and he's like, I survived. Hundreds of arrows were raining down on me, but I survived. That can't be luck. There must be someone else. And Harold's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's what we call bloody God, mate. That's bloody Jesus Christ's Father, God. And he's like, oh, I don't know about this. And his sister's all like, I don't know about this. Some guy scarred me with a big cross on. I don't like Christians. And so there's a lot of really fun tension and interesting kind of, psychology at play throughout all of this, which leads to some crazy, huge, big action and, just emotional moments. And it's just surprisingly good. I'm honestly just so surprised how much I enjoyed this season. It was like so many times I just kept being like, this is so good! This has no right to be this good. Standouts for me were definitely Budget Joffrey and Budget Littlefinger. I really liked the idea of like this boy king coming up and all the Vikings are like, you stupid boy king. And you'd like say something back, but it would be like, oh, bit cringe. Budget Joffrey, bit cringe. And then the way that twisted and turned where King Canute, the great King Canute, who I also loved, a big favourite of mine, the way he was like, actually, I'm going to use Edmund. We're going to all, we'll team up, double king this. And I was like, wow, I hope these guys kind of buddy up and form a friendship because that would be really bizarre and weird. And then before anything could happen, bloody Budget Littlefinger is like, actually, I'm going full Littlefinger and I'm killing the king. And I was like, I was just calling him Budget Littlefinger because he like was just up to the side being like that advisory guy, like, and he was like kind of more Littlefinger looking. He also kind of looked like Athelstan. So at first I'm like, is he going to be the Athelstan replacement? But then that kind of shifted really, really quickly. Love him as well. Honestly, I love kind of all these characters. I'm so surprised by how much they've done in such a short amount of time. Whereas I felt like at the start, I was kind of like, oh, you're rushing through this. And so much of it does feel kind of rushed. Like so many moments, like King Canute's like, actually, I'm going to stay in London and I'm going to be King of England. And then like half an episode later, he's like, actually, I've got to go fight in Denmark. And we don't see him again for the whole season. But then Papa King Canute, Mr. Featherbeard, Mr. Fingerbeard, Fivebeards, Threadbeard. I've forgotten the guy's name. Feather Dusterbeard, something like that. He had a beard name. Mr. Name with the beard. Mr. Beard name. Amazing. He's suddenly like, you thought King Canute might be your favorite character, but I'm his Papa Daddy, and I'm actually your favorite character. Very similar to how I'm like, Jaime Lannister's the best. And then Tywin Lannister's like, hold my beer. And I'm like, no, this stag cutting some bitches, he's my favorite. So that was a definite vibe of that, where he's like, the Papa Daddy comes home and he's like, actually, I'm the man. And then you kind of feel like something's happening where he's like, he's going to get tricked by his son's wife who comes over, but then he's actually like, does a cheeky fake banishment. And then she comes back, she's like, actually, I wasn't banished. Now you're banished. So much betrayal. Honestly, I can't emphasize how much betrayal there was. I could actually understand if you watched it and just went, at a certain point, you've got to do another storyline that isn't just someone else betrays someone else, why actually a third guy in the background is like, actually, I betrayed them both. But I think the big highlight for me, straight off the bat, was kind of the siege of London. Like that was such an amazing point. It kind of felt like that would usually be like at the end of a season, like you build up and there's all the strategy and all this. But episodes 2, 3, 4, we're getting there. We're on the boats. We're sailing. Episode 3, we're sneaking through the marshes. All that stuff was so much fun. Sneaking through the marshes. I love the moment where he's like, I've devised a new Viking ship. And it's just a surfboard. And they're all like, oh, that's just a surfboard, you idiots. What are we going to do with that? Surf down the marshes. And then they're all swimming like boogie boards down the marshes and shooting the arrows up and killing them all and sneaking through on boogie boards. So much fun. So fun and inventive and creative. I just loved it. That was just really, really exciting. There's so many times in old, like the original Vikings where they're like, Floki's like, I've done a boat thing, and I'm like, yeah, this is sick. And this kind of utilized that properly once again in a really fun, different, unique way, and I love that. But the big moment for me was taking down the bridge. Cue London Bridge is falling joke or something. I can't think of something. I didn't prepare anything, but you know, you can figure one out for yourself. So much fun, so great. I love a battle scene that's got like a big spectacle. Like we've got this beautiful bridge, gorgeous water, a big tower, everyone's standing on the towers, everyone's got their positions, and we know what the plan is, but then the plan starts to change and develop, and just seeing all the machinations of the battle, all the betrayals, like when the army from the Wessex guy rocks up, and then he's like, actually, I don't think this is gonna go our way. I'll utilize this later. Didn't work for you, buddy. Beheaded at dinner. Sorry, mate. Loved that. So much fun. That moment at dinner where he's circling is like, but one of you has the stench of betrayal on you. And I'm like, honestly, there's like 3 or 4 of these characters you could kill right now. And that was really amazing. He was kind of the obvious choice, but still, it was great tension kind of wrung out in that scene where I'm like, oh my God. And I think that was the first moment where I'm like, I actually don't want him to kill any of these guys. Like, I like all of them. I want to see them all advance and develop in the storyline. But yeah, that bridge, seeing it collapse, and then I love a scene where everyone's drinking around at the bar, not the bar, but like in the hall room, and they're all like, and Mr. Leaf, the Bridge Slayer of London, and they've all got these big, wafty titles. Daenerys would be proud. There was a lot of moments in this show where someone's like, I'm this guy who did this great thing. Love it. Just bloody love it. It kind of reminded me of how much I love these kind of sword shows, like these sword epic fantasy. Oh, it's not really fantasy. We got the seer guy, but it's not fantasy, but just those kind of gritty, historical, oldie time sword shows where everyone's got a title and everyone's fighting over land and gold and honor and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it was kind of like the breath of fresh air that I needed post Thrones. I've never really gone back. I think the last show that I watched that was anything like this was The Last Duel, which is really more of like a soap opera on a grand scale. And like that amazing movie. Check that out. Really, really good. But yeah, I haven't really kind of gone back into the whole stabby stab. I've got a sword and stuff. Kings and queens. I think maybe I saw The King as well. I like that. But yeah, it was just great to kind of really develop and sit in this world for a long time. It did feel like 2 seasons, but I loved how the adrenaline filled, like bam, 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 just kept going and going. Beautiful scenery, beautiful locations, amazing cinematography, fantastic acting, pretty good storyline, pretty good dialogue and script. Sometimes the character would talk and they'd spar for a bit, and I'd be like, little cringe, but for the most part, pretty great. And there was some really spectacular lines, especially the Queen of England who stays there, and he's like, actually, the person who almost beat us in battle, this lady who's going to be my bride, my new sexy bride. She was great too. Honestly, just name a character. Amazing. So much fun. Cannot wait for next season. I mean, holy shit. Like at the end, it's like, Olog has Kattegat. But then, old man Featherbeard father man, he's like, actually, I'm taking Kattegat. End twist. And then our main guy, Leaf, is like, stab, blood all over me, and just like, screaming at the camera. Cut to black. Give me season 2 now, please. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I'd love to know what everyone else thinks of Vikings Valhalla Season 1.